There we go. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to, what is it, episode 43? 43. How many of these have we done so far? 43 episodes of Business Unusual. I'm Chris Motley, and what I do is I make you look good. I'm the owner of Motley Creations, where we do managed marketing services. What does that mean? Well, what we do is we take small and medium-sized businesses with big goals, and we help find the right size solutions to execute on their marketing strategy and develop the brand and image they need to have. And this is my lovely and brilliant partner, Brendan Filbert.
No, 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 no. Okay, I'll just go for talented. Let me have that accolade. I'd rather go with that one. All right. So I'm managing partner with Salesworks, and my job is working with small businesses and growing organizations or individuals with finding their next customer. And in the world we're living in right now, sometimes that's a little bit of a moving target. And with Chris, we have the ability to be able to help you identify who that perfect audience is, help you communicate why they want to work with you, which is probably even more important than why you want to work with them, and create that opportunity to engage and get to revenue, because that's what really counts right now. So I am so excited. This topic is actually one that I'm going to be learning a lot from after looking at the PowerPoint. I am so excited for you to learn some great insight here. So Chris is going to be running. I'm going to be interrupting frequently because it's what I do. And make sure you share your questions as we go through, because Chris is my favorite expert on this topic, because branding can be one of those that it seems like this really big concept that's kind of hard to figure out why it's important to me as an individual or a startup or a small business. And he's going to share with you why that's important and what you need to be doing. So run with it.
And I'm going to go ahead and kill the camera here. So that we don't have any lag for everybody. Okay, so what we're talking about today, and I apologize in advance, I get excited and I talk fast. So what we're talking about today is Bootstrap Branding, and it's refresh and renew. And so we're going to talk a little bit about refreshing an existing brand, and we're going to talk a little bit at the end about maybe you're an individual that is in transition. We're going to talk about that. And keep in mind, when I say refresh and renew, even, we have a lot of people on there just starting a new business, and these all apply to you as well. So there are some great things that we'll cover for you. So first of all, let's go ahead and talk about what is branding. So, and it's with the advent of the internet, the problem is that there's nothing that governs true from false. It's just a bunch of information that's out there. And I found in a website, I'm not even going to say the name of it, a brand is an identifying symbol, mark, logo, name, word, and or sentence that companies use to distinguish their product from others. And I'm saying right now, wrong. David Ogilvy, back in the day, who's a brilliant, brilliant man, said it's the intangible sum of a product's attributes. And that's part of it. But things are changing now, right? So I like this definition a little bit better. The dictionary of brand says it's a person's perception of a product, service, experience, or organization. So what I mean by that is it's not just your logo. It's not just your storefront and how that's set up. It's not just your materials. It's not just it's who answers the phone and how they treat people. It's how you handle a problem. It's how the world, your clients perceive you. And there's a lot of intangibles in that. So back in the day, and as you can tell by the people who saw when we first logged in, I'm 150 years old. Back in the day, we used to try to tell consumers what our brand is. We'd say like over 50 years in business, over 1 billion served, doctor recommended, and the list goes on and on. And what I want you to understand is that that's not the way it is now. Now we're trying to influence. And there's such a thing as passive marketing and intrusive marketing. And passive is a form of marketing where your products and services that don't inconvenience your customers. So if you're on a web page, it's the side banners and things like that, right? That doesn't interrupt what you're doing. Intrusive marketing involves going out of your way to promote your products and services. You invade your customer's space or time, and we've all seen it where you get on a website or you watch a YouTube video and it just stops and there's an ad right there, and sometimes it lets you skip it, sometimes it won't. And what I want to say now is in the newest generation of people, the millennials, they hate intrusive. They hate it. They resent it, but the truth is they still respond. So you need to keep a healthy balance in that. And how are you intrusive, or are you, do you do passive things, right? And but with the advent of social media, now consumers are telling the world what they think our brand is, and that's what I was talking about earlier about influence. That's why you hear, that's why social media people are called influencers now, key influencers. Um, we all have seen on Yelp and Facebook or any of the others that people just complaining about a brand, and you can see that the bigger companies have people that's all they do is monitor social media, and they immediately get on there and respond, and they're kind instead of, you don't know what you're talking about. They're going, I'm sorry you feel that way. How can I help you? How can I make this right? Because the truth is the client that you've messed up with and fixed it well, they're going to be way more loyal than the client where you've never made a mistake. The client where you've never made a mistake may go start, price shopping.
Well, and
So,
it's interesting how if you look at the just even this last week in tech, how important your brand is and how you behave. I mean, we've seen Twitter, Facebook, and Amazon have some pretty significant declines in their value because of how their behavior did not align with their brand.
right.
So that's what Chris is going to be sharing with you today are some of the things that you want to make sure that you are doing and not doing, because that, I mean, right now we kind of have the living real world case studies of what not to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And as a key example is, it's kind of a simplification of what Brendan was saying is most people here in the US think that a bank is a bank is a bank. Right. But if you go to a bank and you go through their drive through and some of them put like dog biscuits in there if you have pets, or they'll put candy in there, no big deal. And you go to the next bank, you just think a bank is a bank, and you go through the drive through and they don't have the candy or the dog food or dog biscuits. You're like, what the heck? Where's my stuff, man? So there's that's part of branding, how you treat your customers, and they start to expect that kind of thing. And we all get millions of impressions daily. So we're smarter than we used to be, 20, 30, 40 years ago. Right. So, all right, we've covered the groundwork. So now you can get out your pen and paper, because this is where your brand comes in. If you've been on these calls before, these webinars before, you know that we always say that success leaves clues. So what I want to encourage you to do is find a company in your industry that you respect. That's what I call as a mentor business. You may need a business mentor, but this is different. What I want you to do is find a company that is the gold standard of your industry. In my case, it may be VMLY and R, or Whedon and Kennedy, or Goodby Silverstein and Partners. But for me, unfortunately, advertising agencies don't advertise. Go figure. So what I want you to do, though, is think about that. Think about this. And the key here is success. And they do what you do, and they're very successful at it, that they do it. You don't want to find, obviously, somebody who's, maybe a big company, but their stock's dwindling and their customers are angry and things like that. And what I want you to do is kind of research them. How are they marketing themselves? What kind of images they're using? What kind of messaging are they putting out? But keep in mind, there are several options. And one I'd like to talk about, it's an easy way to think of it, is Coke versus Pepsi example, right? So Pepsi, if you look at their logos over the years, it's changed dramatically, and it evolves every couple of years. There's a whole new look and feel. And Pepsi is very new and evolving and young and hip. And, they use back in the day, Michael Jackson and Kardashians and kids. And, it's always the younger generation. And if you look at Coke's logo hasn't changed that much over the year. There was a little time in the 80s, I think, where it changed to just Coke instead of Coca-Cola, and they changed their product to the new Coke, and people flipped their lids, right? Because Coke is good old Coke. They don't, their marketing is they always use polar bears and things like that. There's no hip, cool, changing. They're always dependable. And
And it's the same formula. That's
right,
the other thing also,
right,
is it's an example of how their brand has followed their corporate philosophy, because you had the old Coke, and then remember when they changed and went to the new Coke,
yeah,
and how everybody rebelled and they're like, I want my old Coke back.
right,
And you didn't see anything that really shifted. But then you look at Pepsi, and Pepsi has always been kind of the changing their formula just a little bit here and there and tweaking it and then adding different flavors. And I think that's a great example of how the brand aligns and attracts a market that likes to experiment and have new formulas added versus Coke that is the tried and true. So, that might actually be a fun question to ask everybody right now, is chime in. Are you the Pepsi or the Coke of your brand? So do you have a same process that you are going to continue and market that same process, or are you going to be expanding your products and your services? So chime in with that real quick.
got some Coke, right, and expanding, right. So, and it's really, if you think about it, we always think that Coke and Pepsi are against each other, and they're not. They just have their different market shares, right? One's about the younger people and hip and cool, and one's about the stable adults. They always, when they order anything,
I'm
they always say,
addicted to my Coke.
right, exactly. So, several people expand. We've got a lot of Pepsi people, and there's not a right answer in any of this.
No, there's not, but it is important that you identify which is your core strategy, because that will really influence a lot of the decisions that you make on a regular basis on how you are going to be approaching your branding.
Exactly. Exactly. It's a yardstick by which you make your decisions. So let's talk about some low cost branding strategies to consider, this is the meat of that we've been talking about. So first of all, what I want you to do is, if you're an existing company, I want you to put all of your marketing materials on a table and get them all together. I love this picture because there's like CDs and paper clips and things I don't think exist anymore. Put all your marketing materials on a table. Do they look like they came from the same company? Is the messaging clear and consistent? Are things looking a little dated? Are there things you've been neglecting? Like I've seen it happen a million times. Are there dead links on your website or in your social media account? Are there any online misspellings? So there's people that are like me, and maybe there's some that are listening today, where I go to a restaurant or I read a book or things like that, and I find every misspelling and things like that. It's just the way my brain works. And what I'd like you to do is to think about that. Are other people seeing misspellings and things that are missing in your in any of your marketing materials, right? We're all smart consumers now, and we are constantly comparing products and services to make choices. I forget the actual math to it, but most people go online and research their choices, and one, two, or three, and then it starts to get down to things like, does their website function properly, and things like that. Was it easy to find information? And this is a scary thing for some people. Is think about this: do you want people to look at your website and that of your competitors, right? And compare your quality of service to how your website is, and then compare your competitors' quality of service to how their website is. Maybe they've spent a ton of money on their site, and maybe, just maybe, you've had, your website's made by your sister's neighbor's dog walker's son, that built it and it still uses Flash or something like that. And you'd be surprised at how many people still have that kind of thing. And does it make you feel to think that maybe they'll attribute the quality of your service to the quality of your website? And that's a lot of people I've talked to. It makes them very uncomfortable to think about that. So get an
And
overall sense of how others see your business and devise a strategy how to update from there, right? It goes back to what we just talked about with Coke and Pepsi and things like that. Figure out your overarching, and then start looking at what you have and what needs to be changed and prioritize that. Right now, it's probably mostly online that you need to fix. And you were going to add something, Brendan?
I was. So the thing that's really important with this is to also, and this is my biggest mistake that I have made, and you have called me out on it so many different times over the years, but I will have a tendency to put together a piece or an invitation or something that I have a tendency to just go and get something done by a Canva or a Fiverr designer. And I do it based on what I think is attractive to me. And I'm probably not my ideal customer, first of all. And second of all of these different pieces that I put out, what's been interesting, I've been doing this now for 20 years. And I've had people that have remarked, well, I thought you had changed jobs several times because the information, the look and feel of it had been different just about every single time I saw you. So, and that was just the nature of not having this cornerstone in place of what is that brand and that impression. And you don't recognize that people think that you jump around or inconsistent every time you put out something that's in conflict with that brand. So what he's talking about, it's one of those core things that you may think isn't that important to you, but like even on LinkedIn, they give you an opportunity for a headline that is, it goes right behind your profile image. That's your first step with your brand in a lot of cases, because if people do a Google search on you, and that's something else that's an important part of your brand audit, is do that Google search and see the first thing that comes up on you. Look at all of the different pieces that you're putting out there, and then recognize which align with who you are now. And Chris, I'm sure, is going to be diving into some more information about what you do in order to address it when it's not. But that's something that I just wanted to make very sure everybody recognizes, that moving forward, there's a lot of this stuff that you may be trying to either do yourself, have a college kid do it for you, get an intern, or go to one of these Fiverr sites or 99 Designs or whatever it is that you can get your design and graphic design work done for low cost. Just recognize that you need to create just what Chris is showing on this screen, which is your, what is it called? Your style guidelines or your style guide?
Branding guidelines, but yeah.
Yeah, so create your branding guidelines for what you want in place, and then don't deviate from it. Okay, I'm going back.
So, and you can always, I mean, if you look at many brands refresh every year, and maybe not, a bunch, but they refresh their tagline or things like that to accommodate where their brand is going. They don't change the big direction. Let's just think about it this way. If I'd say I'm coming to your house and I call you and I go, I'm lost, what's the first thing you're going to ask me? Where are you? And if I say, I don't know, you can't tell me how to get there. So first of all, you need to know where you're going, what your brand would be, and you need to figure out what's missing, what do you want to change in your brand, so you can figure out how to get where you want to be. So let's go to the second thing I want to talk about is building your contact list. This is another low cost strategy that you can perform, and it gives you a viable market to market to constantly, right? And if you don't already have one, you need to find a service like MailChimp. That's just one. There's a bunch of them out there, and they usually charge by how many contacts you have. So when you're just starting out, they're not going to charge you a ton of money. So you need to start building your email list today. And you can offer, if you have a website, you can offer a free white paper download. If you're putting on events or something like that, you can have them. I always had a clipboard to sign up, or a little tablet or laptop where people could sign up for your newsletter there, and you could give them, trade them for their information. It'd be at a discounted service, or like I said, a white paper download or something. And we call this a lead magnet, right? It's something that you're trading to get. Have a content strategy in mind when you're doing this, because once you start getting these this contact information, you're going to need to start sending out. It may be a weekly newsletter, it may be a monthly newsletter. Be careful, do not do daily. Right now, people are very, very protective of their inbox, so you may have to, practice, go a little bit more, a little bit less, a little bit more, until you get it just right with your people. There's also, depending on who your audience is, certain times of day and certain days of the week that are very more successful, get a higher open rate. Just remember, you are an expert at what you do, right? You know a lot of information that people are going to pay money to get from you, right? So you need to have confidence in that. You need to figure out what your own voice is. We used to go to parties or whatever and tell stories and things, and everybody has a certain way of speaking. So figure out what your voice is, and you don't have to write a novel. You can write 300 words, and it just can be a 10,000 foot how to do X, Y, or Z, right?
Let me throw in an idea here for you real quick. So I've got one of our clients that I was chatting with yesterday, that they do landscaping projects, specifically water gardens. And what they're doing is they're going to be sending out a weekly Zen moment. And they're going to feature a project that they've done either in the past or currently, with the link to a time-lapse video that shows how that project was built. And then at the beginning of it is an inspirational quote that they're putting in. So they film every single project. They've always done it just as part of their own content strategy, because they have a very visual solution. So that's just one idea of something. You want it to be about your product. So if you are a leadership consultant, you want to send out a weekly motivational leadership thought. And a point that I want to make here, and this I cannot stress enough right now, especially, you'll notice that this slide says contact list. And the first thing that Chris started talking about was not your social media accounts. He immediately started talking about capturing that email and getting it onto your own, it's your property. Because the thing is we have seen evidence this last week of how all of your social media contacts are not yours. They belong to that platform. So what you have to think about it like is that's a rented lot. So it's like your embassy. That's not your territory.
Right.
Your territory is your website and your email list. So whatever strategy you do, whether it is LinkedIn or whether it is Facebook or whether it is YouTube, you have to capture that email and have a reason why people want to engage and share that email with you.
Right. So, and remember, like I said before, you have your own voice, and you could write these articles and multi-purpose them. And when I say write articles, I can hear your guys' eyeballs rolling. The thing is it's not as difficult as it seems. Is what I used to do constantly was think about questions that I fielded that week with different clients, or phone calls that I had with people that, prospects and things, and what people's questions are, and then you write just like I said, 300 words, something to cover that, and then you can repurpose that content. So maybe you send it out in a newsletter, and maybe you put like the first paragraph or whatever, and have a read more button, so you can get them to go to your website where they can find a download and sign up and things like that. Maybe you then take a little piece of that and article and trim it down and go to your social media accounts and put a little bit on there. You might even you might even look at your mentor company that we talked about, your business mentors or your mentor business, sorry, and see what they're doing and kind of emulate that, right? Because not all social media and things, which we'll talk about later, are the same. Not everyone is perfect for everybody, but at this point, what I want you to understand is you need to start building that contact list now, yesterday, as fast as you can, right?
And the
Next,
value of your business is significantly impacted by that email list. So for example, a consulting business that has an email list of 1,000, and literally there were studies done by this with the M&A as far as the valuation of a business. And if you had a list of 1,000 versus one that had 10,000 versus one that had 50,000, the difference was almost double in terms of the value of that business as an asset. So if you are just getting started, please hear us now. The advice that we're giving you is capture and create a database that is your own, and then make sure that they are on your platform. And then the other thing that's really important is have your top of mind strategy. So Chris, I had to give that summary.
sure.
Your turn.
And somebody just asked the question, is this, if you want referral business, do you still need a website? Or can you do just LinkedIn? And I'd say emphatically, yes, you need one. It's today, in today's market, people are kind of hesitant if you don't, they think something's wrong, maybe if you don't have a website. So it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be, it's just basically proving that you're a real business. So anyway, so the next strategy I want to talk about is ask your current clients. And Brendan and I have done this with some companies. Is we've talked to them about who's profitable, and sometimes it takes help to figure out what that is, because we may think it's the biggest transactions that our company has, but it may not be, because that may also be the biggest cost. And so
and that's profitable for you,
yeah,
not who has a profitable business,
right,
but which clients are profitable for you.
right. And so it may not, and you may need your bookkeeper or something, or accountant, to help you figure out who that is, right? So again, think about big first purchase versus big cost. It may be that it's the little ones that you make most of your money off of, little purchases, little transactions with no costs. Think of it this way: what clients do you want to clone? Brendan talks about this constantly. Is you want to clone your good clients, right? So this is one way to figure it out. And you can look at empirical data. You can look at your QuickBooks and things like that. And I used to sit every year at the end of the year and look at my client list and how much I made from them and where did I get them, if they're new clients, and if somebody's falling off, how can I cross sell and upsell to make more money from them, on and on and on and on. So the second thing I want to talk about is you're going to need a service, right? If you want to talk to these clients and get some information from them, because now, first we talked about which clients we want to talk to. So get a service like SurveyMonkey or MailChimp, as we said earlier, to ask them questions. And I can't stress this enough. It says don't be a nosy Nelly. Keep it short. Keep it. You can even make it anonymous if that makes them feel better. But don't send 40 questions. Don't send them something that's going to take them any more than 5 minutes to answer. And it may be, there's a couple different ways to go about it. You may do like, where do you get your news, or what clubs do you belong to, and what entertainment do you go to? And that's restaurants. And what clubs mean, is it maybe it's what golf club, or maybe it's I've done stuff for companies that had they advertised at Starlight, things like that, and the theater groups and things like that. You want to know where these people go. Well, now it's kind of different because of the pandemic, but we used to do that to find out. That gives us places where we could advertise, right? So we could, if we find out that most of your people belong to a country club, then they usually have a newsletter or things like that, so you can advertise there. What you do for entertainments is restaurants and movies. There's, obviously you can advertise in those locations, or in any kind of newsletter that they have going out. Or the other side of it is you can ask things like, what did I do right? And what can I improve on? Um,
And
and
people are more inclined to tell you about what you can improve on, just as an FYI.
right, but so here's the thing though, is that with that, one thing I learned a while back was you can take, say if I, why did you hire me? What did I do? Did I do good? Yes. Why did you hire me? Well, you were professional and you were cost effective. Then you can just turn around immediately. And we never do this. We never do this. And we should be doing it daily. It's going, okay, well, thank you. And who do you know that needs a professional, cost effective, whatever you do, widget seller, right? And people, if you've done them well, they're going to go, oh yeah, let me think about that. It's not, we think it's that we're asking too much, and it's not. People love to help if you did well for them. But again, you can take some of this information. If it's what did we do right, you can use it as a testimonial on your website, or you can ask them for it. Um, and all this information. The reason why you want to find this out is because birds of a feather fly together, right? Now you have places where people who are just like your client that you want to clone hang out. Maybe they all go to, I don't know, CNN.com or something like that. So, what you may not be aware of is that there's regional advertising. So, a big website like that, you can buy ad space that just shows in certain zip codes or countries or wherever, right? It's not necessarily nationwide, or you can probably pay more and get nationwide. So um, again, what you want to do is kind of start seeing patterns in what your clients do, and the best way is to ask them.
And before you leave this, one point that I want to make is if you are starting up, if you don't have a client yet, then what he is talking with you about, you can also do with that prospect pool that you want to serve. So for example, I was chatting with one of our attendees before the broadcast started this morning about how they are just getting started and they don't have a lot number of clients to be able to call on to capture this information. You can interview, and it's probably good. And there's actually one of our episodes in Business Unusual where we talk about it's the interview we did with Susan Spalding, and it's where you evaluate and assess, and it's market research, and it's identifying the different markets. And we suggest that you identify 2 to 3 that you interview to determine where they're at right now, especially since we're kind of at a spot, just based on everything that's happening in the world right now, that if you are in what is considered that essential business and are still open, you probably haven't had much of an interruption. But if you are one of those businesses that's been shuttered or has had to close your doors, then you're trying to scramble and figure out where you go next. This is a really valuable exercise for you to do. Identify that client that you've served in your brick and mortar business, interview them, find out what they come in to buy from you and what would they buy from you online. And then what frame of reference or context does that product fit in? So if you are selling a food, then are they focusing on healthy eating? So maybe your weekly content is a healthy eating tip. And then to really spin this off, you can also identify other products that you can sell through an affiliate relationship, where you get a percentage of their income from them clicking through your link in order to get to that product. And that can create a lot of really good, it can create great income, because you don't have to buy inventory. You don't have to really spend money on infrastructure because the vendor handles everything. So there are a lot of companies that this becomes a secondary source of business that may actually surpass their primary source of business. And that's what a lot of people are finding right now. And on the service point also, I'm going to suggest, so Chris is talking about MailChimp from the marketing side. Even before you get to that point, I'm going to recommend you buy a CRM. And the CRMs that are out there right now, that is it's an acronym for a customer relationship management. It is a software solution, and it is something that can be game changing for you and your business. And You can buy access to one like Nimble that's pretty inexpensive. And we are not an affiliate of Nimble. I just know good things about them. And they will also allow you to create when you create your database, they also allow you to link it to social accounts. So you can quickly look up a prospect and see their social media profiles as well as their all of their normal contacts. So you can kind of get a sense of what's happening with them right now. So that's really good information. And then one other bootstrapping technique that I absolutely love is every single client project that you wrap up when you were first getting started, you need to do a wrap up survey with your client. And the wrap up survey is the how did we do? What could we have done better? What should we have done more of? What are the things that you benefited the most? And you capture their information during that. Here's what I really liked about working with you. Here's what made you different. Here's where you had an impact, and this is what the impact was in my life or in my business. Capture this information, and that can create a case study. The case study should be basically, 3 to 4 sentences, less than 200 words. It needs to be very short and very sweet. Draft it, and then turn around and ask your client if they would be willing to either share that on your LinkedIn profile, if that is where your primary social embassy is that you're doing to generate leads. You share it on your website. So this goes back to Chris's point about repurposing content. And then if you have a brick and mortar business or an e-commerce business, ask your client to take that, and this is how you phrase it. So it's not a, I'd like, would you go post a Yelp review? How you position it is, you've experienced benefit, and I'm really looking to grow my business and work with people that look just like you. Would you be willing, I did a quick summary of our interview that we did. Would you be willing to look at the text that I gathered from your words, edit it further, and then share that as a testimonial or a review on Google or Yelp or whichever is the primary profile or primary survey or review place for your business? So capture that information, and you especially want to do this whenever you get a bad review. You get a bad review, you want to bury it really quickly with good reviews. And this will also help you with finding that information in order to be able to do so. So those are just a few highlights that I would add from the sales side of it to what Chris has already added.
Great. Sorry, I'm looking on our YouTube channel here. There are, to her point, there's I think episode 20 is want to spend $1 and get 40. Right, that's part of everything that she just covered here. Episode 28 is more marketing for less. So there's a lot of these where we cover CRMs and all that kind of stuff. So, and then this one, we're just going to keep it general, but you can find a lot more details in some of those. I think I mentioned some more later on in this presentation. So, okay. Oh, and go back one more. Remember, we talked about asking your clients, and Brenda made me think of this when she said something about, maybe you don't have clients yet. I've heard it said by several different business coaches that there are CEOs out there of very successful companies who delegate everything, and then they sit at their desk and don't have much to do. So if you're brand new or just starting a company, you might try to get a hold of that person and see if you can set up a lunch, because a lot of those people are kind of gotten to a philanthropic part of their life, and they'd be willing to talk to you about some of the information that you want to find out. So just keep that in mind. It goes back to finding the gold standard of your industry. So the next I want to talk about is social media. Brendan covered a lot of this just a minute ago.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. Remember before how we talked about changes? One being people tell us what our brand is now, right? And so what you can do with social media is you can build brand ambassadors, right? And that's why they call them social media influencers. So YouTube is like the second largest search engine. So not only do you want to put content out there, but you want to think of it title it in ways that people search for the answers that you're giving. Facebook is inexpensive and has a huge audience. LinkedIn is you can network, you can find partners, you can up your exposure and credibility. Instagram, you can boost sales and drive traffic to your site or your store. Twitter is promotion and brand building, but you need to be active, right? You go back to repurpose your content that you had before, and comment on what other people have for posts, and you can run contests and ask for reviews or testimonials from satisfied clients to be put on your page. And YouTube is a phenomenal way to do what Brendan was talking about. Is you may be like, if in this we've said MailChimp a couple of times, it would be a good place to go to MailChimp and go, hey, we're talking about you. Can we get an affiliate link? Which means exactly what Brendan said, where people can click on it and we get, a percentage of that sale from MailChimp, not from the people who buy it. So, and just keep, one of the most popular things on YouTube right now is reviewing maybe softwares or products or things like that. And so, you could review two of them, two different sides, Coke and Pepsi, and then have links to where people can go buy either or, right? So, there's a ton of ways to get, other residual income from social media. And, the big thing is as brand ambassadors, you want people talking about how great you are, but you have to know which is appropriate for you. In other words, I had an attorney come to me and he did corporate law and he wanted to do corporate contracts and things like that. And he wanted me to set up a Facebook account. And I said, no, because that's from there, he's going to get, maybe wills and things like that. He's not going to get, there's not corporate CEOs on Facebook looking for attorneys, so that his social media platform would be better off at LinkedIn, maybe even Twitter. So you need to think about who your target audience is and where they hang out. That's part of that, back to the ask your current clients, because not every social media platform is created equal. And one of the things that we talk about too is you want to get them off the platform as soon as possible. You want to get them talking to you, a phone call, because your website, your social media, all these different things don't sell anything. They generate interest. And you sell things. So get them off the platform as soon as possible. Excuse me.
And on the social media platform, one thing that I want to also explain really quick here. Your social media account, just because you have one, doesn't mean anybody's going to make a trip by it. So the analogy I like to use is, think about it like it's a billboard. And your billboard, without you doing something on that platform, it may as well be stuck in a cattle pasture that gets zero traffic from your ideal audience. And if you want to turn that into a 4-lane highway, then what you have to do is you have to post consistent content and engage with your audience, because then the algorithm for that platform is going to kick in and put your information in front of your audience that you currently have, which is your current contacts. And then based on how active they are with engaging with your content, determines whether or not it's going to show up to their network. And remember, birds of a feather. So you want to post content that your ideal audience will engage in. And when I say engage, it doesn't just mean read. They need to like, comment, and share the post. And you don't want to use the word share, because the algorithms have kind of figured that out. And they recognize that people like helping people and being nice. So you truly have to create content that is share worthy. And then also those brand ambassadors that you have, your brand ambassadors, don't think about it like they have to be a big name in your industry. It may be your referral relationships that you ask them to comment on your post and share your post. And one of our attendees today, Kathy, does a magnificent job. When she posts something, she tags all of her referral partners in that post, which means it will show up in my feed and remind me that I need to go comment on the post and share it. And I do that either through private messaging the content or through sharing it on my timeline. But the more you do that, the more the platforms like LinkedIn especially will continue to bring you together with your audience. But if you just post your not very good resume up there that says, I worked at this company at this period of time, worked at this company at this period of time, this company for this period of time, that does nothing. You haven't even put up a billboard. You've put up not even a street sign. There is an empty post in a cow pasture, if that's what your profile looks like. So, I mean, so the stuff that we're sharing with you, you need to think about how you take what is free and is out there and expand on it from there.
Right. And somebody has asked this question is for a startup service business, career change coaching. What are your thoughts on the idea of providing some free sessions, say 6 to 7 clients, in return for their agreement to give a written or video testimonial? And I think that's a great idea. What we call that is beta testing. And we are building a knowledge product, and we did exactly that. Had 4 or 5 people, well, more than that, 6 or 7 people run through it. And then, we had set up office hours so people could, call us and talk about, answer questions and things like that. And it was just for a set period of time. And then, we got to, from their input, we got to figure out what could change, what needs to be better. And to your point, yeah, you could ask them, but that's the payment for it. That's giving away, kind of what we said earlier, giving away something to get, right? So.
Well, and I will further expand on that just a little bit. What my recommendation is, there's something that happens when people give you their credit card or give you money in terms of deepening the relationship. So what I will often do is, if they have value and would participate in the conversation, they'd probably also pay. And I want to make sure that if they're not paying me, I get really good feedback on what would they pay based on the value of it. And I'm remembering there was actually something written about in a book. Tim Ferriss talked about this when he talked about creating your muse. So let's pretend you're putting up a new product on an e-commerce site, and you want to know whether or not somebody's going to buy it. You can have all of the friends that you have in the world go look at it, and they'll look at it and say, oh yeah, I love it, I love it, I love it. But the problem is, until they actually have to part with cold hard cash, they're still giving you this nice that we all have a tendency to want to do for our friends. And as marketers, we kind of want to do the same thing. We like for people to feel good about talking to us. So you really want to put something out there that does have a little bit of a price tag that people will pay for, even if it's a reduced fee. And then from there, I mean, my first client that went through one of our programs in 2005, there were 3 people that attended one of my beta workshops. And one of those gentlemen introduced me to date to over 245 people. And I track that, as you can probably see. And the other one has rehired me for, I don't know, I think it's like our 20th engagement that we've had over the years. So there is a lot of value to figuring out an entry-level beta offer. And I do suggest that you put some sort of a compensation in there, in addition to that, the positive press. So that's my recommendation. So you get the marketing side and the sales side. So, sales side, we always have if you can't make money off your friends and family, who can you make money off of?
So there's the next thing I want to talk about is, and I know we're running late, I'll try not to run over too far, is virtual events, which is a huge thing these days. Brendan and I were just talking to somebody Wednesday about this, is going from live trade show events to virtual trade show events. And the whole point of this is that you are, again, like writing an article, you are an expert. 100 years ago, I worked at Sprint PCS. That'll tell you how long ago it was. And I went to we were talking about building a Macintosh network inside of Sprint that plugged into the PC network. And I looked for, researched online, people who trained that kind of stuff. And I went to an event, a live event where a guy taught how to build a network. And I ended up hiring him who then came in and helped me build the network within Sprint. So that is to say, if you're putting out things like this, people are more likely to come and get you, or if they're paid to come and see an event like this, then they're going to more likely hire you to help them with their personal stuff. So again, equipment is inexpensive. Most of the computers now have a camera built in. Software is inexpensive. Lights are inexpensive. You can just research it on Amazon. And I'm not going to go too far down that rabbit hole. You can look at BU episode number 2 is tech and best practices for putting on events like this. And then BU episode 25 is building an engaging virtual event. I think there's another one that's how to not have boring virtual events. That was hilarious. I love that episode. So I'd say again, go to youtube.com/salesworks, sales with the Z, and you'll see our channel and subscribe and that way you'll know when the new one comes out, and they may not all be perfect for you, but anyway, this is a very easy way to start, and Brendan and I laugh a lot about what is it you say, Brendan? If you're not embarrassed by your first one that you did.
If you're not embarrassed by the first iteration, you waited too late to launch.
That's
I
it.
am so sorry. I'm laughing over somebody made a comment about their LinkedIn profile. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah. So again, you're an expert in your field, right? Just figure out there's Zoom, there's GoToMeeting, there's GoToWebinar, there's several different ways you can do this, right? So look at different platforms out there, and again, go to episode number 2. I think there's another one out there that I did that had some other kind of that shows you where to buy and what kind of stuff you could buy to get this done, because really editing video and stuff like that is, you got software, you can do it all on a tablet, on a phone almost. So and then the last thing I want to talk about in my section of this is, if all else fails, be a guerrilla. Now, what do I mean by that? I used to put on seminars back in the day for startup companies and things, where we would go through the J. Conrad Levinson's guerrilla marketing, and there's several different sections of it, and now there's like 500 different books. But I believe there's tons of great ideas. There's low and no cost techniques, like I was working with the Tonganoxie Recreation Commission, and they do, they're smaller town Kansas, and they do like art classes and the Little League baseball and things like that. And it's what I told them is, you have a captive audience when you have them through diamonds, baseball diamonds and things like that, is they can hire kids and have them put little flyers underneath the windshield wipers and stuff that advertise the painting classes and things like that. There's just a ton of ways like that you can advertise to your audience that doesn't cost you a ton of space. You just have to be creative about it. And these books are wonderful at pointing those things out to you. And there's such thing, like I said, I don't think I said it before, but I talked about what remnant space is, and that there's in national magazines or national websites, there are local ads, right? So you can, what's called remnant space, when the closer it gets to publication, the more generous they are with filling up the space, because the enemy of any media, such as radio or print, is dead space, right? So the closer they get to broadcast or publication, the less they charge for that ad space. I'm sorry, go ahead, Brenda.
Next week, we're also going to be diving into this when we talk about scrappy marketing. Mm-hmm. And we'll be featuring some different businesses and ideas about things that people are doing right now to not only pivot, but profit wildly through their pivot.
Right.
So there's so many different avenues out there. The thing is, what I hope you're getting from this is that you need to be a student of marketing, and you need to be a student of what is marketing and working for people that look just like you right now.
Yeah, see, and these books are they're not a dictionary. There's not 7,000 words in it. They're very short, very sweet. Some of the other things they cover is co-op, which is what we're doing right here a little bit, right? So it's finding partner businesses and putting on events like this. There's 500 different versions, like you see here: guerrilla social media marketing, guerrilla direct selling, the best of. There's a ton of different ones. So you just got to look and see what's right for you. And if the book can be as little as $5, and if your average sale is $2,000, and it helps you get just one, then it's well worth it. Now I'm going to turn it over to Brendan because you wanted to talk about people in transition and personal brand. So, Brendan.
Well, and that's something that I thought would be really important. And I know that we're running over on time. So I'm going to share with you that if you have to bail off the call, we will be sending out the recording link to everyone that registered today. Whether you were able to make the call, if you had to hop on and leave early, you're going to be receiving it. If you do not want to be included in that distribution list moving forward, you can hit unsubscribe and we'll still be friends. I understand how important that mailbox and protecting the space in your mailbox is. So anyway, but you will be receiving the recording link because this part is important and I don't want to gloss over anything or rush through it. And then if you have Q&A and you want to stick around afterwards, we will be here afterwards to make sure that we help everyone that does have questions. And if you are listening to this recording on YouTube and you have questions, chime in on the comments because we are more than happy to help you take these concepts and apply them in your business right now. Now, the thing that you have to recognize about being in transition is you don't want dead space on your resume. So, or on your profiles. So if you are in transition and you're between roles, I would suggest that you pick up some sort of, whether it's a side hustle or a gig, or you hang up your shingle. And we have a number of resources available. Actually, one of my favorite is on the call right now. And we're going to be doing actually one of those. We're going to be talking about different MLMs or possibilities for side hustles that you might have in, and that's going to be I think it's 2 weeks from now is when we're going to be doing that. But the biggest thing to recognize is you need to keep moving with something. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Even if it's, you're at home being a domestic goddess, it doesn't matter. You still need to have something that shows that you are still engaged and you are still active. And if it's volunteering, if it's, if you're a part of a PTA or whatever, you need to be talking about this. And you need to make sure that you continue to post and you continue to share relevant content. Don't talk about how hard it is to be in transition. You need to share relevant content that is of interest to your potential employer. They need to see that you would be an asset to their organization. And what you will find as you do this is that algorithm is going to kick in and really engage with your personal profile. And remember that and Frank had to leave our call, but more than 90% of engagements are found via networking. They're not found via you responding to a job or them putting your resume in front of someone. It's just too overwhelming if you approach career transition like that. It's much better when you think about it from that networking. So make sure that your social profile is robust. So I talked about what a lousy profile looks like. What a good profile looks like is where you understand the search terms that people are using for someone that has your expertise or background. And then you make sure that your profile is populated with those search terms. A tool that I found that is really good is called Uber Suggest, and it's UberSuggest.com. And Neil Patel is kind of an expert on search, and I love that guy. And you can put in what you think is, so if you're leadership development, you can put in, or if you are a transitioning project manager, and what you do best is organize and prioritize projects and get subcontractors motivated and excited, and you can work well with the digital transformation side to get people engaged with their jobs and build culture and excitement and enthusiasm. All of that is going to spawn lots and lots of different search terms that people are using in Google or YouTube. And then what you're going to do is make sure that you weave those terms in. Don't just lump this all under expertise. Weave it in through your profile. And instead of featuring, I worked at ABC company for this many years and XYZ company for this many years, list your significant accomplishments that your peers and colleagues are going to most recognize you for. And then that information is what you are going to want to share in throughout your accomplishments and achievements in your profile. So those are just a few of the ideas that I want to make sure that I share with you and that you take and apply with your business. The biggest thing that you have to recognize is that the only way that your profile is going to gain more and more visibility is through your content distribution. It doesn't have to be original content if you don't like writing or you don't like doing your own content. I will tell you though that you're going to get a lot more mileage out of your own than you are out of sharing someone else's. But even if it's an article that you feel is of interest, you need to make sure that you share what you either agree with about that article or disagree with, and expand your thinking. So, because in a lot of cases, people aren't going to go and read the article, they're just going to look at your judgment of it. And then that will spark a conversation. So I encourage you to really take into account this. And then thought leadership is something, I'm just going to give you recent, and this is like fresh insight within the past 10 days, is that the posts that are going to get the highest ranking are those that involve video, followed by that original, that kind of original content, that what people are thinking. You're also going to get a ton of eyeballs based on how high profile the site is. So for example, if you share an article from Forbes or Inc. magazine, that will get priority because the platform recognizes that they're a known brand and probably not known for fake news. And what you're going to want is make sure that you align with reputable publications when you share that, and you also post your content, your insight or perspective on that. So the biggest thing is, and there's a ton of stuff that we could do on social selling, and we've done a lot of episodes on it, and we'll continue to do some. We're going to talk about social selling probably in just about every single one of these episodes that we do, just because it is so critically important to building your business. And whether you like it or not, whether you like the platform or not, it's one of those cases of you really don't have to like this stuff, you just have to do it. And what you find is as you start to resonate and get traction and align with people in your tribe, you start to fall in love with some of the concepts that are here, and you do it because they work. So it's kind of like, I don't like fixing my hair every morning, but I do it. And that's kind of what you have to look at it like. Okay, Chris, next.
Sorry, I've been on the YouTube channel trying to, if you guys can see the chat panel, I've pasted in the YouTube channel's link and some of the episodes and what they cover, some of the past episodes. So I suggest you go, and when you have time on your own, to go look at that and see if there's any content that would help you out in your particular endeavors.
And please subscribe while you're there. Please, 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 please.
Please, please, please. So what I want to do is I need to brag on Brendan for a minute here. Is if you're anything like me, this class will change your life. You've heard us say, if you've been to some of these we've done, is we talk about being a dog on linoleum. That's, in other words, you see a dog trying to run that's on linoleum, and there's a lot of action but no progress. And that's what I was. That's how I was. What was it, Brendan? 2006 or something like that. So when I met you, and she cured me of that. With this class. It was a different iteration of this class, but it's the same. It's great content. It's filled with, just for me, it was filled with head slapping moments. Like, oh my gosh, why didn't I know that before? Oops, why didn't I know that before? I want to see if I can copy this. Nope, I can't do it. I was going to try to copy that link out of there and paste it in for you.
Well,
anyway.
and I will just give you a really quick summary of how we work with professionals. Is we teach people how to create a word of mouth and referral based business. And that's what this workshop does. Our perfect clients are thought leaders, they're consultants, they're gig workers, they're people that really do have something that is different and better, but struggle with communicating that. And we teach you how to do that through this class. So thank you very much for the kind words, Chris.
Oh, it's
And then
no problem.
we want to give a shout out to our sponsor also, the Women's Business Center. And that's probably how a lot of you heard about us today. And we have aligned with them and are producing this content based on sales and marketing and pivoting your sales and marketing strategy. They have so many amazing programs right now. And I encourage you to take a look at the other content that they have out there, kansascitywbc.com or .eventbrite.com. And they're just, I mean, it's everything from they've got information on how you apply for forgiveness if you participated in the stimulus programs and some of the different stuff there. They have access to, the startup. How do you do this? How do you do that? And there's a lot of stuff on accounting and finance too. So I encourage you to check that out. And then if you have any questions based on today's presentation, reach out. We are happy to help. Connect with us on LinkedIn. If you have not connected with us yet, we would love to have you. We also post our invitations to the events there. And then one other thing before we wrap up, I also want to let you know that if you subscribe to our channel and you would like to receive the weekly prospecting tip, make sure that you message us on the admin@salesworks.com, and we'll make sure that you are subscribed to that weekly prospecting or marketing tip that comes out. And it's that post that Chris talked about that's anywhere from 300 to 400 words that tells you here are some things to think about to successfully pivot and land your next opportunity. So I want to say thank you, and we will wrap up our recording for today with one final thought, and that's to get what you want, you must help others get what they want. Have a great day and good selling.
Thanks, everybody.